Naturally, as any game goes through the development process, there will be content that's either changed or removed entirely. What I have here is all of the unused content and information on Stardew Valley that I could find. I'll go ahead and apologize ahead of time that there's going to be a lot of images, because, well, they're not in the game. To get us started, I can't not mention all of the changes to character sprites up until release. The original art style of the game was much different, and almost every character has alternate portraits in this old art style. Even after that, a lot of characters had tweaks made to their sprites closer to release. Shane specifically has one of my favorite examples of early art. What a beaut. Of course, in that same vein, almost everything has an early version that was stylistically changed down the line. Trees, grass, tools, animals, not much survived the purge. Also, here's a bunch of overworld sprites that go with those changed character designs, as well as an early cat for good measure. One of the reasons the game went through such a major design change, along with Eric's skills improving throughout the design process of course, is that the game was originally meant to just be a sort of proof of concept of his game design skills. Eventually he decided the game could be something better and he could be a real indie developer, so he started redoing all of the assets to make them better. The intro of the game was also changed at some point. It used to have a much larger bus interior with multiple characters milling about, including an older version of Haley, oddly enough. You were going to be able to walk around the bus and talk to the other characters before getting off. We even have all of the dialogue that the characters would have said. Haley was coming home from a shopping trip, and although he doesn't seem to be in the bus image, we do have some dialogue from a character named Dobson, and we also have a couple of talking sprites for him. From the dialogue, we can tell that he was going to be really similar to Morris, although a lot more rude. Eric says he ended up taking him out because he didn't want to be that heavy-handed when it came to the antagonist of the game. During that intro, you would have this bus ticket item. Since the whole thing was scrapped, this item went unused, and eventually it was actually turned into the magnifying glass item when version 1.3 released. When you go to see a movie at the theater, sometimes you'll see other characters in the seats as well. Here we got Carolyn and Jody going to the movies together. If you choose to go to the theater with Penny, if Pam ends up randomly going to the movie at the same time, Penny will love the movie no matter what. Afterwards, she'll say something along the lines of, "I love going to the theater with family." Unfortunately, Pam is set to never come to the theater if you bring Penny, so it's impossible to see this dialogue. Speaking of dialogue you shouldn't be able to see, if you were to travel out of bounds during certain festivals, here we are at the Easter Festival, and whoop, if you go out looking during the actual egg hunt, you can find the wizard out here near Jojamart, and he'll say, and what about raw lizard eggs sprinkled with blackened marrow? Funny enough, he's not there until you actually start the hunt. Also, during the Easter egg hunt, you can find eggs hidden outside of the actual playing zone, and they can still be picked up and used like usual. During Spirit's Eve, he can be found north of the maze. The affairs of the mundane folk matter little to me, but the elementals like a chance to see you up close. It was for them that I created this silly maze, and Linus is also out of bounds. Good show, old friend. I'll take that. During the Festival of Ice, you can find him at his wizard tower, where he'll just say you're weird for coming to see him. And he'll even say you straight up shouldn't be here during the flower dance. While the game is pretty reserved on the combat side of things, there's actually a cut boss from the game called the Shadow King. Not only is it one of the few cut shadow characters, here's another one that was actually wearing a bow, but there's a hidden dialogue from Krobus that refers to the Shadow King. You're the one that defeated the Shadow King, correct? I'm not upset at you for slaying our king. Most people considered him a tyrant. He was too quick to suspect people of being dwarvish spies. I'm sure the dwarves were happy to hear it. So yeah, that's a pretty big cut. Luck is still in the game in the form of 2 invisible stats, one for your daily and one for your personal luck. It used to be an entire skill, just like farming and fishing. Related to this, you know that title that you get under your icon in the menu? Right now I'm a level 20 Granger. This is determined by all of your skills added together, divided by 2, and then every 2 of those levels, you get a new title. Thanks to this removed luck stat, there are 3 titles that will never be seen. At a total of level 26, you'd be an agriculturalist, at 28, you'd be a crop master, and it maxes out at 30, making you a farm king. And I'm guessing it would change to queen depending on your gender. Did you ever think that bug steak was sort of a random item to be in the game? Well, it's actually because it's a repurposed sprite from back when the game was going to have butchering. It was going to be a part of the farming profession tree, as we can tell from this image on the developer blog, and there was a bunch of meat-related cooked items that got put in the chopping block as well. But the raw steak sprite got recolored and put in as bug meat, which is a lot more humane. Checking out other stuff from the blog, we can see that the elevator was going to be a craftable item, probably replaced by the staircase item along with the implementation of an actual elevator. The mines also used to look a lot different. In fact, it's very reminiscent of the original Legend of Zelda dungeons. I also found this wallpaper of the caves. It looks like this image got repurposed into the background for Junimo Kart. Or perhaps it's the other way around. I do like the way the player character sprite looks in this because it's unlike any animation we have in the game. On a post introducing fishing, he showed a bunch of tackles, 2 of which we haven't seen, although the slimy one does look a bit like a slime egg. Here is a picture of Robin on the phone. There's 2 songs that went unused in the game. One is the original song that was going to play on Spring 1st. And the next one is simply titled Goblin Theme. Notably, when looking at the cover art for Goblin Theme, as well as for the song The Lava Dwellers, which actually is in the game, the 2 images are of areas completely unlike anything we have in the finished game. One depicting a bridge in a cave over a cavern, the other looking like the lava mines, but with actual lava everywhere. Still quite a bit different from the volcano dungeon as well. The final thing that I found on the blog was this GIF. It has the caption, "You might encounter it if you play your cards right," and I don't know. Penny used to be named Dana, and we even have an old sprite sheet of a character named Dana. Willie used to be named Dick. I can imagine why the name was changed. And Alex used to be named Josh, which would explain why the map for Alex's house is called Josh House. There are 4 buff or debuff symbols that were never implemented into the game. These 2 pretty clearly mean no eating and no drinking. These were replaced by the nauseated debuff. For the other 2, one has an image of a goblin-type creature holding a flame, and the other is just a hole in the ground. We can only guess at what these were going to be used for. We do have 2 unimplemented buff descriptions, one being confusion, which just says you feel dizzy, and the other is stupefied, which means you can't remember how to use any special moves. It seems that at some point you were meant to be able to obtain a unique weapon depending on who you chose to marry, as each of the romanceable villagers have an unused weapon with their name on it. All of the weapons are completely usable, there's just no way to get them. You'll notice that there's no weapon for Emily or Shane because they weren't romanceable originally. Unrelated to the villagers, there was a 3rd slingshot tier, the Galaxy Slingshot, that was set to do 4 times the damage of the original slingshot, or 2 times the damage of the Master Slingshot. This would pretty much handily one-shot every single enemy in the game when shooting iridium ore. Its description simply says it looks really powerful. Also, there's 1 pair of shoes that went unused, the cowboy boots. The description says they're the height of country fashion. They have +2 defense, +2 immunity, and their color would be just a slight bit lighter than the regular shoes. There are 3 machine-like sprites that don't show up anywhere in the game. The first are these 2, what appear to be portals to hell, and then there's a 3rd arcade cabinet design. The item's called the Cursed PK Arcade System, PK standing for Prairie King. Something's not right with this Prairie King arcade system. Upon trying to play the game, there's no way to interact with it at all. Among other unused sprites, there's a singular answering machine sprite. Perhaps this would be used when you get a call on your phone but don't answer it. As of now, if you don't answer a call, you just don't get to see what it was. And there's also a sea monster that you can find on the beach if you're lucky. But it has a few sprites of it tangling with a shadow person. I say shadow person because we don't know for sure if this is Krobus or not, although some of the parts of these sprites were repurposed for the mountain cutscene if you got 14 hearts with Krobus. Have you ever seen young Linus? Now you have. These sprites were probably from a cut backstory scene. Before we go, there's a lot of assets that we knew were unused, but later ended up being added with later versions of the game. The most interesting of which being the summit. It was always a map you could walk around in, you just have to clip out of bounds to get there, and once you do, it's just a jumbled mess of sprites. There's also previously unobtainable weapons that ended up being used for the remixed mine rewards. These are the cudgel, the elf blade, and the Yeti tooth. Also, while not necessarily unused, it's obtainable in most versions of the game. There's a panda hat that you only have access to if you're playing on Tencent's gaming platform, the Panda Hat, which has a description of a cute panda hat. This is Eric's gift to TGP players. TGP standing for Tencent's gaming platform. Modding the hat into other versions of the game removes that TGB bit. Finally, the most important piece of unused data. All boots actually have a price value that is never used, because the price that's actually calculated in-game is the defense plus immunity times 50. That's pretty much all I could come up with. Unused content is fascinating because it shows you how tailored of an experience the game was made to be. Even if something is finished and completely usable, if it didn't fit CA's final vision, it was binned. A lot of the information in this video was documented on the cutting room floor, found in the sprite files compiled on the Spriters resource, or found in the old blog that concerned Apad when he was developing the game. If I missed anything that you know of, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and good night.